everyone, and welcome back to my channel. This is Ali, and this channel is called Java with Ali, and we are going to continue on with Android, an app-driven approach. And we are going to talk a little bit about packages, because the first two videos so far in the series has only kind of slightly skimmed the surface of what the powerful part of Android development actually is. So Android uses a collection of packages. So packages, again, are the predefined classes that are already part of Android. So we have different packages like Android.animation. These are classes with properties within animation that we will look at when we develop our apps. We have Android.app. These include the high-level app models that are available. Android.content. This is the access and publish data on a device. Android.content.res. These are your resources, and that's what we looked at last week because we were looking at the resources folder, the RES folder. Then we have Android.database. We also have Android.database.sqlite. So if you have Android.database, it's going to be your content provider, excuse me. And then if you have SQLite database management for private databases, Android.graphics, and then you have Android.graphics.drawable. So everything that will appear on the screen, it's display elements only. Then we have Android.hardware. That's going to be like your hardware support if you want to turn on and off your device and you have to interact with the Android operating system and things like that. Android.net is going to be your network. Android.os is your operating system services. Android.preference is your user preferences that are available, and Android.provider. We also have Android.support.design.widget, print, app, widget, and most importantly, these couple of ones that are more used, I guess. Android.text for rendering and tracking text changes, Android.util, Android.widget, and Android.view. And the reason why I'm introducing you to these now today as we are going through this is because you don't necessarily need to learn these off, but you're going to use some of them, and knowing that they're there will show you and harness the ability to create powerful apps on Android. So Android Studio, as we had mentioned already, is going to be your GUI designer, your graphical user interface designer, your code editor, so your syntax, your coloring, your lines, your everything that we covered last week with layout, your auto indentation, autocomplete, your type, your debugger. It has your version control system as well, and your refactoring support. Android Emulator is the thing that we covered in the very first, where we just dive straight in and created an app straight away and then added your emulator. Your emulator then is included in your Android software development kit, and it allows you to run and simulate different environments. So your Android virtual device, you can use different Android phones, you can have Pixel, you can have a Google, you can choose whatever you want. And it will come up and show as if it's rendering on that device, and that is amazing. Then we have our gesture within your Android emulator. So your touch, your double touch, your long press, your drag, your swipe, and your pinch and zoom capabilities, which are all part and parcel. You have your emulator action, which is associated with that. So your rotate to previous orientation, let's say, is your keypad _7. You have different things like camera as well, and it's all part of your emulator functions. So Android functionality not available on the emulator, Bluetooth, USB, things to do with more with hardware, but we'll cover that a bit later because I don't want to get too bogged down on the details just yet as we're starting off. So let us look at objects. So we have, and I'm so glad that I learned Java this way when I was learning it. So let's look at a car as an object. So suppose you have to drive a car and make it go faster by pressing the accelerator pedal. So for those of you that it doesn't matter if you are driving an automatic car or a manual car or in parts of the world they call it a stick shift. You still need to get the car to go. So what must happen before this can happen is when you drive the car, someone has to design it. A car is typically with engineering designs and blueprints, and then you take the pedal and you hide that. The complexity, like you're not diving into the car and going behind the pedal and like pulling different things. No, this enables you to just drive it directly. So within that, then you have your methods, and your program requires methods. Now, everything to do with the foundation level of Java stuff, we have already covered. So I'm going to put this a little bit aside. I will say though that we have the car as an object. The car is then used, and let's say if I want to change different properties, I'm going to make a copy of that car. So I'm going to instantiate the car, so build a new car. So it allows me to reuse it. Our messages and our method calls, our methods are like our verbs in English. So any action that we need to do, our attributes then and instance variables are our attributes such as their color or properties. And lastly, we have encapsulation. Because of Java, we use encapsulation. So encapsulation being wrapping around our attributes and methods into our object. So our objects, attributes and methods are intimately related to each other. So we have a concept called information hiding. So objects that can communicate with each other, but they're not allowed to know each other, how each other's objects are implemented. And that's where we use our private. So our 3 Ps, private, public, protected. That's where we use usually our private and are protected in some forms sometimes later on, but we'll get to that in more detail as well. Inheritance, then we have, of course, a new class of objects that can be created quickly and conveniently through inheritance. We inherit from the parent, or as if you're using other programming languages like C#, you might call it a base class, superclass, base class, or you might say parent, child, and the language might change. So we have object-oriented analysis and design, OOAD. For this to create the best solutions, then we have to have the analysis. So we are going to pause this right now as I've now introduced you to the packages, and we are going to dive straight into programming. So join me on the other side. Okay, see you in a minute. So before I flick over to Android Studio, I want to mention 3 important things: drawable, layout, and values. So the drawable is the folder names that begin with drawable typically contain the images. These folders also contain the XML files, which we covered last week. And then we have layout, and layout is our XML, our extensible markup language. This is where we define our GUIs, our GUIs, our graphical user interfaces. These are what appear on the screen. And our values, then our values are our arrays, order, colors, strings, everything to do with styles, everything to do with our values. So for example, a dimension resource is referenced through many locations throughout your code, which we mentioned as well last week, because we wanted to change just one part throughout the entire app, and then you change it in one place and it's really good. Then it has one definition for it. Okay, see you in a sec. Hello, so I said I was going to open up a new project, and we're going to take a little bit more detailed look about everything that's going on here. So we have our imported packages. I just created a basic activity from our file, new project, and then I just created a an empty one, sorry. And now we have 2 imported packages. So we have our app compact activity and our bundle. Now, if for any reason you want to look up the reference document, please do go ahead and go to your Google, which is your friend, and look up the reference. So you can see here it's a public final class bundle, extends base bundle, implements clonable and parsable, and it's a mapping from string keys to various parsable values. So here we have our constructors, so you can obviously build a new bundle and then use this as our constructors, and then we have our public methods as well. So when we go back to Android Studio, it's imported bundle here, And what we do when we use bundle is that we use our saved instance. We create a local variable in the Oncreate method called save instance state. We have our super here, which is going to be our super for app compact activity Oncreate, and we're passing through our bundle of our saved instance state. So a bundle is like basically pulls all of your app together. And we'll go into a bit more detail in another video, but it pulls all of your app together, all your resources, your layout, everything all into the one. So Oncreate, it shows up as your main activity. Set content view. Now this is called or.layout. So it's your resources layout and then activity main. If I go to my activity main, it's still loading. I may pause the video now until it's loaded. So hello, so I opened up the previous activity that we had worked on when we introduced fragments, and you can see here the import, there are a lot. So the snack bar, app compact activity, view, and then the navigation. So we use all of these fragments, menu item. One thing you need to look out for if your ADB is causing you issues or anything, I'm going to give you a tip right here. So I can go to settings, and let's say I want to go to Android, under appearance and behavior, Android SDK, and then SDK tools. And if you have an older version of Android SDK tools, it'll just come up as Android SDK tools, and you can click here to unhide the obsolete packages, and if you untick it, it will uninstall, and your ADB will work then. Sometimes your emulator won't work if your ADB is in an older version or the obsolete version is already installed, which is what happened to me. So these are your packages, and if I go through each one of these things, it shows where it belongs to. It's the same as Java normally that we covered before. So app configuration, activity main building, and everything within here is already configured. This is what your activity is going to. You find navigation controller and it builds it. Set on-click listener, which is your button. And you can also replace with your own action with this one as well. So each one of these is just part of the inbuilt most powerful tools that we can use within Android. They're the most common tools to use as well. Oncreate options menu. This is a menu inflator if you want to reduce the menu as well. This is handling your action bar items here. And then we have our on support navigate up as well. So I will post this in GitHub. The link should be below. And then we'll continue bit by bit going into more detail each class. So this is just an overview of the packages that are being used. I listed them out in the previous section of this video, and these are the ones that we're using right now. If you hover over it, you can see within Android Studio that it gives you a brief introduction of what it is. You can actually click on it as well. If you hold down the control button and click on it, you can see the actual original class or method that you're using, and then it will show you the actual nav controller manages an app navigation within apps, and it would give you all the descriptions and the comments of the entire Android tool as well. So these are all read only because they're obviously the pre-installed Java classes that are already there for Android, so everything just runs. It makes it so much easier. What you're doing is basically, if you think of Android as like the layer to get everything to work, and then you're just putting on another layer to go, hey, I want to use this, make this work. Now, technically that's not actually accurate, but that's just a good analogy to think of it like that, because you have all your pre-installed tools, so you don't need to go in and say, make this controller, and then get it to left and right. The controllers are already there. You're just getting them to move or changing them or looking at the behavior that you can do with them. And that's it. So that's it for today. Next week, we'll continue on more detail. Please do like, share, and subscribe if you like this video. Okay, thanks.